So before we begin, I'm delighted to introduce the Mayor of Worcester, Dr. Adrian Gregson, who's going to say a few words before we kick off the main event and the rest of the symposium. So over to you, Adrian.
Thank you, and good morning. It's nice to have a national conference here in Worcester, and you are all very welcome, particularly from Plymouth, Grimsby, Wakefield and the Thames, and everybody else who's made it through. I had to walk down a hill, which is not too difficult. Well, it was 3 inches at the top of it. It's funny to think that around 10 years ago, when I was leader of the council, I suggested working on the disused and part demolished railway branch line, which runs from Foregate Street to the River Wharves. And the idea being that we created a high-level walkway which gave access to St John's on the other side of the river, with links on either side of the river bank, opening up the path from the station for foot and cycle to the river and beyond. And we even created an animation to go with it for this skywalk. And today, at the heart of our CDF project, the Arches project, is the culmination of that dream in many ways. It's made reality. It links the city railway station to the riverside, and it has a creative cultural vista, a path past bars and restaurants, reaching from the Worcester's oldest station to the river, or it will when we've knocked down the chicken shop. A number of things, of course, have brought us to this point, not least the city plan, which was agreed in 2015. And the key elements of that city plan were stronger and connected communities, a prosperous city, a healthy and active city, a heritage city with a 21st century culture, a sustainable city for future generations. And the CDF project really hit the brief on all of those. It was begun in 2015, it's recently been refreshed for 2027, which, by the way, is the 800th anniversary of the first Guildhall on this site. As a result of the plan and our shared vision and ambition for Worcester, we successfully bid for 3 rounds of government funding in quick succession: the CDF, the Future High Streets Fund, and the Towns Fund. And we've seen our own views, of course, on government funding and beauty parades, but the time and effort sometimes has to be justified, and in our instance, it has been. We've been fortunate to demonstrate that our approach to regeneration, redevelopment, and link to heritage and culture in generating jobs and services for residents and visitors. The Future High Streets Fund is set to revitalise a rundown area and bring back to life an Art Deco cinema. A stone's throw from there is the Towns Fund, creating new opportunities in the public realm and sprucing up our station at Foregate Street. Hopefully a number of you may have passed through. And then the CDF capital project opens up the gateway to the river, as I've said. And you would have thought that that was all well planned, and that's what I'd like to suggest it was. And our stress on creative and graduate employment, the links with the Kiln, which is an existing but recent creative workspace, and the development and agreement of our arts and cultural strategy. Well, as that was all planned, what we could not have planned for was the way in which the festival programme of the Arches project would be received. And this is where the CDF programme has really come into its own for Worcester. With 4 light festivals, as well as atmosphere, and the same but different green tentacles encircling our 20s shopping facade that you can see on the images around you. The people of Worcester have been amazing, frankly. They've turned out in their thousands to enjoy and participate. And I don't think that we believed it would work as well as it has done. And of course, now the trick is to continue that legacy, to hold firm, to be bold, and to be more ambitious, to invest ourselves, and to demonstrate to funders that we can deliver events of force to be reckoned with in the international cultural arena. And that's what today is all about. So immerse yourselves in the grandeur of this 18th century building and be inspired by 21st century culture. Share, listen, engage, learn, steal ideas from each other. And above all, enjoy your time in Worcester. And let us encourage you to visit us again quite soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. We're all delighted to be here, and thanks for framing things so well for us. Now, as you may be aware, the Cultural Development Fund is UK government funding through the Department for Culture, Media and Sport, or DCMS, and administered by Arts Council England. So before we hear more about this from Paul Bristow, the Director of Policy and Partnerships at Arts Council England, I'm delighted to introduce by video link the Minister for Arts and Heritage, Lord Parkinson. So thank you.
Thank you to Jason and everyone at the Cultural Development Fund Network for inviting me to join you today. I'm sorry that I'm not able to join you in person, but I'm very pleased to be able to send this short message to open what promises to be a fantastic event. This symposium is an excellent opportunity to celebrate, learn from, and be inspired by the projects which have been unlocked thanks to the Cultural Development Fund. I'm delighted that representatives from all 12 projects that we've supported so far are attending today, and that you'll be able to share your experience and insights with other project teams. First, I wanted to reflect on how the Cultural Development Fund supports our commitment to level up every part of the United Kingdom. As well as enriching people's lives, culture and creativity contribute to our economy, creating jobs, regenerating often overlooked places, and boosting pride in place. So it's no surprise that they can, and already do, play a critical role in levelling up. The Cultural Development Fund plays an important role in this. The fund's investment in cultural and creative activities acts as a catalyst to make places more attractive to live, work and visit. And of course, these projects aren't happening in isolation. They should be seen against the backdrop of Arts Council England's national portfolio funding. As many of you will know, there were some big changes this time round, partially as a result of the government asking the Arts Council to distribute funding in a more equitable way across the whole country. A record number of organisations are now receiving funding in more places than ever before. Looking at the CDF Round 1 project areas specifically, there are some real highlights. Plymouth is supported with over £4 million a year, Wakefield with over £3.7 million a year, and Grimsby, one of those places which previously had no national portfolio organisations, will now see support for the Culture House. The Cultural Development Fund, launched as part of the 2018 Creative Industries sector deal, was intended as a proof of concept, showing that towns, cities and communities outside London could develop transformative culture, creative or heritage-led strategies for economic growth, and that these strategies would act as catalysts for regeneration. The 5 trailblazing projects in Round 1 were announced in January 2019. The pandemic hit less than a year after the launch of those projects, meaning that you had to rethink how your projects could continue to deliver for your communities. It's testament to your resilience and ingenuity that you were able to adapt them during this time of upheaval and uncertainty. Building on the legacy of Round 1, a further 7 successful projects from CDF Round 2 were announced in March last year, with the potential to be transformative for communities again. I know that the 2 rounds of funding are already making a real difference to local people. The projects are creating local jobs and opportunities for people to forge creative careers all over the country, creating new training places, supporting local cultural institutions and attracting tourists and new businesses. So I feel really optimistic that we're on track to achieve the core aims of the fund. In short, I hope that as you look back today, you feel that the proof of concept launched in 2019 has absolutely done what it intended. Finally, I wanted to reflect on the importance of the peer network that organised today's session. It means that CDF will also build capability, confidence and connections among local cultural leaders, and will continue to be led by people who are rooted in their communities. It enables you not only to support each other, but to act as advocates for cultural investment across the whole country. It also helps you, the Arts Council, and us in government in learning what works in terms of cultural placemaking and culture-led regeneration. So I hope you have an excellent symposium, that you gather and share more valuable insights on the programme and enjoy spending time with friends and colleagues. I'm sorry I can't be with you in person, but I look forward to hearing how it went.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to be with you today, and I'm really looking forward to our discussions. So, as Jason said, I'm Paul Bristow. I'm the Arts Council's Director for Policy and Partnerships, and I'm here today with several colleagues from across our team who lead CDF delivery. I just wonder if everybody from the Arts Council who's here working on CDF, just give us a wave, because we're really happy to have a conversation with you today and to meet you and learn more about your projects and learn from you as you take your work forward in the future. If we didn't meet you last night, it's a great opportunity to talk to you today, so please do come and talk to any of us. I'd like to add my welcome to that of Councillor Gregson's and also to thank you for welcoming us so warmly to your city. Worcester's a city with a great heritage and a strong vision for culture that enriches the lives of residents and visitors, and I'm glad to have visited several times and to be back here today. It's a fine backdrop to our discussions, not just the city of Worcester, but this magnificent building. But importantly, Worcester is part of a bigger story. What's happening here is being mirrored in villages, towns and cities across the country. And we've come together to mark the success of the Cultural Development Fund in helping realise a vision of places delivering sustainable and inclusive growth through culture. So I'm really excited to be here for the Reimagining Place Symposium. It's an important moment for the cultural sector and its contribution to the life of our country. As you've heard from the Minister, culture is vital to this government's ambitions for the renewal and vitality of our places. Now, we in the cultural sector have known this for years, and whether you're looking at some of the kind of flagship projects like Turner Contemporary and Margate, the decades-long contribution of the Sage and the Baltic to Gateshead, or the experience of our European cities and UK capitals of culture, there is a wealth of evidence for culture's transformative potential out there, and from a lot of other projects besides. But in recent years, this has been increasingly recognised beyond the cultural sector, and last year's Levelling Up White Paper was an important moment with its commitment to supporting culture to help places flourish economically, socially, as well as culturally, and in all areas of our country. And this commitment has come with investment. Culture and heritage are an investment theme for the Department of Levelling Up Housing and Communities Levelling Up Fund. And of course, we've got the Cultural Development Fund as part of a wider suite of programmes as part of the Cultural Investment Fund. And of course, to make a success of this, leadership matters. We can see that here in Worcester, and we've just heard about how important that's been over many years. And we can see it in all the CDF projects, and it's true in national government as well. And we in the Arts Council would like to acknowledge the role of DCMS in advocating across government for culture. The department's commitment and leadership has been hugely important, and you'll have heard the depth of that commitment in the Minister's message. And it's important to note as well that this isn't just about the government. There's a measure of cross-party consensus about the value of culture. There's a real moment here that we can build on. And we at the Arts Council are doing what we can to make the most of this opportunity. Our strategy, Let's Create, sets out our vision of creative communities, an England where villages, towns and cities thrive through a collaborative approach to culture. And we're committed to working with partners and leaders in places to that end. We're targeting investment at those places where engagement with culture and public funding has been lower than the national average. We're working with local partners, local councils, business, the voluntary sector, higher education, further education, schools, to understand what communities want and seeking to tailor our support to help them deliver that. And we're looking to strengthen local cultural infrastructure and capacity for the long term. So what better moment to come together to celebrate the success of the first round of the Cultural Development Fund? So firstly, the celebration. What's happened in Wakefield, Worcester, across the Creative Estuary, in Plymouth and in Grimsby and North East Lincolnshire has already delivered. We're seeing new infrastructure, exciting programming, business development and capacity building across culture, heritage and the creative industries. And thanks to Cultural Development Fund investment and the hard work of local partners, culture and creativity is an integral part of the vibrancy and success of all these places. And that gives us learning. The partners who have delivered the first round of the Cultural Development Fund are our experts. Their experience will inform delivery moving forward, and the learning from that will be as important to the Arts Council and DCMS as it is to partners on the ground. I'd like to thank 51012 and everyone who's been involved with the CDF Learning Network for their contribution to this. It's been really important. We've learned a lot from this, and I know from the partners participating in it as well, you've learned a lot as well. So thank you for joining us today. Let's celebrate our success. I look forward to speaking with you during the event today and perhaps afterwards, and I hope that we can continue to work together as we build successful and sustainable places by giving more people in more places cultural opportunities. Thank you.